tower for the bike. Custom fit this on. Gotta make a bracket for it. Because the one from Rebel X is 75 euros for the entire complete clamp mount and all the fixings, and then it's 102 euros for postage. So make my own from Bunnings stuff for about 40 bucks. Alright, tower's mounted. Okay, so I'm almost there. Just got to clean it up a bit and drill and tap 2 holes, but I pretty much replicated the same design that the Rebel X tower uses, but I used some 50mm flat gal steel and some 30 by 30 gal steel angle. It's all 3mm thick. It's got a little bit of weight in it, but nothing too bad. As you can see, the tower fits pretty easily on there. It's nice and straight. This is just the first step. I've got a raid garage screen to go on there. I've got some lights to go in there. And then I'm going to build the fairing. I'm going to use some HDPE plastic and plastic welder fairing and sort of make it shaped similar to the raid garage 890, 790 fairing, because that thing looks really good. Okay, starting to get somewhere. Don't need the billet block. I'm going to use 2 spacers, aluminium M8 spacers by 20 by 25, and then I shave them down 1mm each with the flap disc. Got to fill that semicircle there. I'm just going to layer another piece of aluminium in there and kintsu glue that in place too, and then rivet a bigger piece of aluminium over the outside just to cover that hole, give it something solid to bolt to. I'll drill through both sides, and then I'll chuckle a couple of M8s with locking nuts and washers, and off we go. $26 rally tower plus about 50 bucks worth of shit from Bunnings to build the bracket. Probably 50 bucks in fixings all up. $250 screen, and then probably another 100 bucks on HDPE and a fair bit of time. I was starting to get some positioning going. Had a lot of trouble sorting out the loom coming through, the throttle cables. There's a lot of modifying to do with the wiring, and as much as I tried to get a P-clip in here, it just can't happen. I cross-threaded this hole into the frame. I had to tap it out. Luckily I had a M6x1, otherwise I would have been in shit, because it's really hard to get the loom in position and wrestle it, get a bolt through it and get the P-clip, and then get it through this bracket, then try and not cross-thread it into the frame here. So that was a pain in the ass, but anyway, we'll get around that. We've got our raid garage screen on and towers mounted. Solid as. Could almost lift the bike by it. The next thing is to get some bottom brackets going and take it for a test drive around the block and see how the wind buffeting is, and just get it in a really good position where the wind isn't annoying. I'm going to get it perfectly in position for wind buffeting and functionality, and then try and line up this edge with this edge on the tank as much as possible without taking the slant out of it too much. And I also have to account for the fact that I haven't got the lights yet, so I've got to make sure I've got enough room to mount a projector lens here, and then a 5-barrel 80 by 80 LED spotlight going there. So it's got a big projector spot in the middle and 4 floodlights around the outside, so it's got to sit really close to that screen. The joys of custom fabrication. Nowhere near the final position, but the first sort of mock up with what I have at hand. Some packers and pieces of laminated timber and G-clamps and cable ties and tape and all sorts of shit. There's a high-low beam projector, and there's the projector center spot with 4 floodlights around the outside. Just have to give them a good run and see how hot they get. Make sure they're not going to melt the polycarbonate or whatever it is at the front. There's some headlights, and we've got high beam, which is actually electromagnetic activated. It actually pushes the reflector into a higher position. It's better than the stock headlight, I'll tell you that much. Just have to get out the file and clean up that little edge. So it's just a straight beam because it's a right hand drive, a little step in it. But bikes here, especially Japanese bikes that I've owned, they all got a straight edge because they're sold internationally with the same headlight. They pass ADR and they don't have a high and a low side on the main beam. And there's the spotlight. I don't want to have to upgrade this stator on this bike. It's only a 35 watt light with 5 LEDs. It should get the job done. If it's pulling too many amps, I might have to put in a switch, which basically when I've got the high beam on, it'll turn the headlight off and have the spotlight on its own, just like this. I'll have to test ride it in the night once I get this all in position and bolt it up and see if it's any good. If it's not, I'll just swap it out for a better light. I'll have to really be careful of the stator on this bike. There's not much spare wattage, but there's not many times at night that you're riding and using the fan. Not where I'm from anyway. And the fan draws 49 watts. It draws more than the injection system. And then you've got a spare 10 watts on top if everything's running. I might be able to get away with running something more powerful. Okay, I think that's pretty much the final position. Sat the bike, measured the beam height. I set it slightly below the same height because the way you're meant to do it. Well, in New South Wales anyway, is the centre of the light, height from the ground at 10 metres. It should be no higher than that measurement from here directly to the ground. The lighting is in. It's aimed, it's in position, got the frame rigged up to take the fulcrum weight. I've got it mounted here, but I've also got it basically mounted directly underneath. So all the weight's standing on this frame. And I'll use that frame to build a small housing that encloses the headlights so they don't get smoked by mud. And also just to stop light refraction from coming back out into your vision when you're riding. Start fabbing up a couple of brackets that run from these mounts. I have to fab up a couple of brackets that run from this. And that spine is actually an aftermarket one for the CRF450 Rally. Alright, just doing a bit of nighttime headlight aiming. Not sure how well the camera's going to pick this up. There's the low beam, there's the high beam. There's the spotlight. And I've got that all aimed and mounted. I can get on with positioning the screen for the final position, build some brackets for it and get this tower finished. I was starting to get somewhere with a bracket for mounting the top part of the windscreen. I'll mount the bottom corners from here out to the screen first and see how it goes for flex and brace accordingly. That's actually not too bad, but slowly getting some progress. Even though I've seen this thing mounted about 15 times, I've finally got it where I don't have it held together with G-clamps and vice grips, tape and packers and whatever else I've got my hands on. Get our final positioning. It's almost time to start building the fairing. Okay, so now we have the final position. I thought I had it last time, which was about the 4th time, but number 5 was the one. I was working around fitting the screen around the headlights, which I had bolted together on the same bolt, and the spotlight was too far forward, making the screen tilt too far forward this way. So now we have it in the final position, way more upright than before, which is how it's meant to sit aerodynamically, I think. That little kick at the top, just here, I think makes the wind curl off and go a bit higher than the actual screen would suggest. It might get some buffeting, but unfortunately where it sits right now is where it has to go. I have to space this out. I've got to put a standoff in there, and I've got to pull the dash apart, and I've got to build a bracket out of aluminium to bring the top slider for the brake hose out further here. Put some cable ties on it, clean everything up out of the way so there's clearance on the spine from lock to lock, and then I'll take it for a burl and see how she goes. I like the position it's in, I like the way that it's sitting. It's up high enough, it's close enough to the bars. It couldn't go any closer. I've already changed my handlebars to a less steep sweep this way. When you go full lock, there's only about 10 mil of clearance to the screen. So just spent a good hour cutting out the most extremely oddly shaped hole in a piece of 3mm aluminium. But unfortunately it's necessary because supposedly it's extremely difficult to get aftermarket blinkers to work with this bike. So I was just going to buy some cheap clones, but supposedly it's a pain in the arse, and I don't want to find out by throwing money at it. Just traced out and copied the hole off the stock indicator mount. Doesn't have to be perfect. The rubber covers up any discrepancies in my shithouse craftsmanship. These are going to mount somewhere. Not even sure yet. probably around here. Then mount them back to this part of the frame and back to the tower itself with a bracket. To build the fairing, these need to move. They're just in the way. And I've kept them stock. All I'm doing is just relocating them to a bracket with the same shaped hole in it. I wasn't quite sure how they were going to land yet, so I just cut a big block out around it. I'll trim them down as needed once I get the bracket placement. But I also won't really know where their final position is going to be until I have the fairing in place. I'll know exactly where they'll be able to sit with a cutout for a hole. Just another part of prototyping. Make one, think you've nailed it, go to put it together, wrong position, start again. Getting into the pain in the ass part of trying to build a symmetrical fairing that looks good from the front and from any angle pretty much. It's going to be a mission. There's rough draft number 1. There'll be a fill piece that runs in the back here. So I'm going to continue this line down into here with a fill in. And then I'm going to put a lip there and a lip here to give it strength. Version 2.0. Just took that one there, trimmed it up, the lines that I drew on it. Looks like in my drawings pretty much. It's not far off it. So far we're getting pretty close to a fairing shape. It's been going through my head for weeks and weeks and weeks how I'm going to go about this, and I've just thought today, sick of thinking about it, I'm just going to attack it. So I've got it mounted to the windscreen just roughly. It's a rough template to basically lay onto some HDPE board, trace it out, mark the fold lines, I'll measure the degrees of these folds while they're on the bike in place. I think you're going to have to do it in 2 separate sheets because I don't have a sheet that's long enough. Pretty close to the final shape now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to it later on when I try and actually get it happening in plastic due to the flex properties of cardboard being slightly different to 3mm HDPE. It's getting pretty close. I can't build the filler or the return angles on it because I need to lay it flat again and put it down on the HDPE as a template basically. I've been visualizing this build for 5 years basically. Before I even bought my Africa Twin, I was contemplating doing this exact build on this exact model bike. I wanted a 450L set up for light adventure with a decent looking fairing on the front. No offense Rebel X, but not a fan of the look of your tower. It might be highly functional, and this might not be functional at all. Well, it'll be functional, but the wind buffeting might suck because I still haven't test ridden it because I'm still waiting for wiring and waiting for some indicator plugs and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got a build happening. I've got some angles measured out, and you're going to mock up the whole thing first. Make both sides because this tank doesn't sit exactly central. I'm not sure if it's from a beating or from just the way it was made, but it's definitely sitting off to the left a little, so rushing off and building 2 identical side fairings probably isn't going to work too well. Okay, just using the heat gun, some metal rulers and some G-clamps and an angle measurement tool. Score it, line up the rulers on it, clamp them down, heat it, bend it. Go over to bend, then measured up some reinforcement, plastic weld them in, and then we have the right angle. Now we have the beginnings of a fairing. Now the plastic welding has begun. We have a fairing, or part of a fairing. I think I'm going to have to cut this piece off and plastic weld it in because I just couldn't get it to bend in the right spot. Yeah, this is pretty light so far. Wouldn't even weigh 350, maybe 400 grams, I'm guessing at the moment, but it's still got 2 more return edges to go on it. Not hard to do. Soldering iron and a grinder and a file. That's it. Slowly but surely getting the job done. We'll get it happening. It's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. Nothing ever is when I make it. Looks weird now, but once it's all filled in with the return angles, it should look alright, and it should work pretty well in deflecting a fair bit of wind. Hopefully it'll line up not too bad. Gotta do a bit of trimming. Gonna have to cut those rear wings off, so I just can't get the bend on them. So now we've got our front return on. Fit it on the bike and see how she sits. So now we've got our return edges on. Much as the Nomad 20 litre tank's good, it's kind of ugly. And I was trying to extend off its ugliness and try and make it a bit better looking, but it's not the easiest task. I went through I don't know how many designs. I designed it and designed it and designed it over and over. Then I saw the new 5.7 gallon or 21 litre IMS tank for this bike, and I'm like, whoa, that one's better looking. Make a better looking fairing with it. But do I want to spend another $1,000 on a long range tank to get a better looking tank with an extra 1 litre? Probably. Should I? Yeah, I shouldn't. Well, we're getting close. But unfortunately, I overheated. Well, I didn't overheat, I heated the plastic well, but the problem is I used the steel ruler this time, and the steel ruler heated up and cooked the plastic on both folds, which is quite unfortunate, but such is life. My bracket mounted off the radiator guard and tank mount. I'm going to have to figure out a way of trying to mount it somewhere around here. So far it's only mounted here and down the front into the radiator guard to make it a bit more rigid so it doesn't sit at 100 going flexing. That would just be quite irritating if I managed to design a big vibrating chunk of plastic that just wobbles on when you're at speed on the highway. So we're far from perfect. We're a fair bit off symmetrical. Getting to the point now where it's almost a finished prototype. I have to attach the blinkers. I was going to put them in here, but too complex of a shape to do the way I'm doing things. I think I'm going to mount it here and build a little box with a wire to run down inside there. Bought some aftermarket blinkers with running lights and scrolling LEDs. Even though I didn't really want them, though, the only ones I could find that ran an extra running light, and they're going to be white because I don't like the fact that the lights run orange as running lights in these bikes on all the Hondas, because it's kind of sketchy. The argument's been back and forth, but I personally find that one day some idiot's just going to see it and not notice that my indicator's on. If they just glance for a split second and just see both the orange lights on as the indicator's flashing, could be bad news. So I have white running lights in the indicators that scroll orange. I'm going to put some new ones on the back that have a brake light added in, so they'll scroll orange and they'll brake light red, so I'll have 3. And then I've got to build a small plastic cage around here. Then I've got to build the dash. Well, I'll build a splash guard at the bottom. I'm going to build one that sits under here and goes up, because all my electrical is going to sit inside the tower, accessible through that square hatch there. I've built this that slots in. All my fuses are going to sit there. There's a lot of plastic welding. It's going to sit there. I'm going to build the dash. I've also got the return edges on the top now, and I've put a piece of Scotch lock Velcro in there. I sanded everything, cleaned it up with methylated spirits, and then heat gunned everything, including the back side of the tape on the Scotch lock. Doesn't go anywhere now. Like I planned, I didn't want it wobbling. It's solid. It'll bend if you belt it, but it's not going to wobble. I'm starting to build the headlight mask. I have to make it bit by bit and feed it in past all this bracketry and the tower and the screen and everything else, because I need everything in position to build it. I built this splash guard in the bottom that all connects up with some push pin rivets. Starting to get somewhere with this light shroud to keep dust and water and mud out and keep light in. Completed light enclosure. It's not completed, but it's built. Actually it's not quite finished, because I have to fill in this little gap at the bottom here that runs down to the splash guard. This might need an extraction fan. Maybe. We'll see how it bakes up. As usual, it's a step-by-step process. Get everything back together. Now have a light shroud slash splash guard. I think I might attach the bottom half to the lower splash guard and put some push rivets in there. I've got to cut this piece of aluminium off. Just doing a bit of prep, plastic welding all the outside joins and sanding them, trying to make it kind of okay before I give it a paint job. This is 7 pieces of plastic. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see on the welds. I've sanded it down 120, 220 and then 400 grit. It's going to take too long to get all those marks out of it, so I'm going to use some spray putty just to clean it up. It's been quite an involving little piece to build. Probably the hardest part of the whole build so far, because it has so many things that it has to maneuver around, like brackets, and has to shape to the edge of the screen, has to shape to the edge of the tower, has to go around 4 brackets, and it has to leave enough space for everything to maneuver in there as well. But we got it eventually. Okay, so I've given up on the 2 relay idea. There's just not enough space in here. Painted everything up. It's gone with a single relay with a disconnection switch from the high beam, so you can have just the headlight on its own with the high beam, or the headlight and the high beam and the spotlight together. But letting this stuff cure. It's been a couple of hours, should be good to go soon. I'll bolt it all together. We're all painted up and wired up, hopefully. So if I've got to pull this thing apart again, I think I'm going to lose my mind. A lot of work, a lot more than I envisioned when I kicked off this project, or even when I conceived it, even when I was like deep in the guts of planning it. Like, yeah, it'll be easy, it'll all just fit. But as usual, when you get to the physical reality, it's like, oh man, everything's so tight, the tolerances are tight. The way you've got to put it together is very specific, because it's not manufactured, it's prototyped. It's a very specific order in which you have to put things together. But that's only because of my limited manufacturing ability. It's starting to look like a finished product now. Everything's fit and finished. Basically as good as I want to get it. I should weigh this thing. I think that probably right now weighs about 2 kilos. I know the tower is 900 grams. The lights are a bit heavier. The screen's not that heavy. It's very front heavy because of the lighting. We've got everything painted, tightened, wired, splash guards in. Got my indicator wires ready to bang up when I get a chance. Just running some power up to my front fuse box. I'm running it switched, and just in case you're wondering, there's definitely enough space to fit a 40 amp relay under there with a fuse. And then I'm going to pick it up from the tail light positive to fire the relay over, so I'll have switched power. It fits in there quite easily because the seat sits well up. The bottom of the seat sits just above this plastic. Probably 45mm to play with in there, but I just ran the power cable under here, followed the main part of the loom from the bike, went in, ran up, ran the cable here, ran it down in near the ECU, clipped it up here, and then just ran it up along the frame, and it follows the frame and the main loom up into the cable guide and into the front. Got splash guard built, just got to give it a sand and a paint. Ended up bailing the push pins because they're just budget and they just wouldn't hold. They hold alright into like aluminium and steel, but they just don't like holding into HDPE. I think I should have used undersized drill bits and tried to round the hole a bit so they were a bit tighter. Got it all plastic welded and fitted up. And that's where it's at right now. Got this all mounted in. Quite a complex pain in the arse little piece to build. More complex than the fairing. Yeah, you get the drift. Just gotta clean it all up. Proper fixings in it. Now it's time to start wiring the bike end of the loom. Okay, so we're getting closer to having a finished bike. All I need to do now is figure out, I think I got a bit of voltage drop in the cable. It's too thin for the switch wire, for the relay, for the spotlight, the disconnect switch, so I might have to up the size of that cable, and I've got to wait for my indicator plugs to come so I can remove the indicators from their stock position and mount them on the fairing. But I've been waiting 6 weeks for a set of indicator plugs, like factory ones, those little green 7-pin plugs. Yeah, don't ask me why they use those, it's ridiculous. I'm almost ready to chop them off and put something else on there, but yeah, they're on their way supposedly, still. Making a cover to contain the 3,000 feet of Honda factory loom that is somehow so ill designed sitting behind the headlight number plate on the stock bike. It's like there's literally, like, not counting individual cables, just the individual pieces of loom. Like there's literally one loom this round that comes in just down here, and it turns into like 15 or 16 arms of spaghetti with plugs and splash covers everywhere. It is a fucking nightmare, to put it bluntly. Make a cover, and then I'm gonna put a bottom plate on it, and that'll hold all the cables up out of the way so they're clear in this small gap here. There's not much space in there once we get it all contained. I could try and find the plug for the cluster and relocate it, but I don't think you're going to find a female plug. Like, the female plug is a PCB mount going into the back of the odometer, so you might be able to find the male plug. It was hard. It took me literally weeks just to find the blinker plugs for this bike. I searched and searched and searched, and I couldn't find anything, and I ended up pulling it all apart, pulling a blinker out, taking a really close detailed macro photo of the plug, and then image searching it, and I found one image, and it was for $87 per end of each plug. So, you know, like one female plug, $87 US, that is. So I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to keep searching. So I image searched, and I couldn't find anything, and then I went to AliExpress and used their image search function and found them for 90 cents each for a set. Even though I found the plugs, there's still, I cannot find the manufacturer or the actual name of the plug. It was that difficult to find indicator plugs. I don't like my chances of finding the odometer plug in a male and a female to try and extend it and to put it up onto here, which would be preferable, because then I could get rid of all of this loom and just make a cable tray that runs up the spine. But it also alleviated a lot of my issues, because then the only things that have got to swing, basically all your handlebar stuff, which isn't that much really, it's all fairly small cabling. But I could do away with the giant ball of spaghetti that sits in behind here with the headlight and indicator plugs and stuff like that. Like, I just don't understand why they made so much cable when they could have really just had that loom come out and had all the plugs just sitting like this, come out, just go up to a bunch of plugs, that's it. And then one plug going into a cluster. All the rest of them just sitting one bunch of plugs in a splash guard, and then just wire everything out of there. But instead of that, they separated everything and used their little rubber boot splash guards that slide over all the connectors and the cables. Maybe it was a cost-cutting exercise because they didn't want to build another plastic tray with a bunch of connectors that sit in it. Capitalising off watching lots of install videos for rally towers of all different brands and different bikes, just to get some ideas on how things work functionally and aesthetically. I've taken another design and made my blinkers mount up off the screen bracket, because I just really couldn't be bothered with the whole notion of attaching the blinkers to the fairing. It's a lot of work, and one tap and the worlds are probably going to come undone, and then it's going to be all over. This may change if I do make the fairing out of carbon fibre. Will that be much easier to just make a hump and then drill a couple of holes in it and mount one of these on? But until then, it's going to do us. So we're going to have our blinker mounting like this, coming off the side of the screen bracket. That way it's all out of the way, clears everything. It's in a legal position, pretty much exactly where it was in relation to the headlight to start off with. So we have blinker brackets, and we've got them attached to the top screen mounting bracket. And now we've got the indicators mounted up. Hopefully the final position, pretty close to the stock ones. It's slightly higher, but the headlight is also slightly higher, so it's all proportionate to the dimensions of the original stock lighting. As good as my idea was, it wasn't solid enough, so I put a reinforcement bracket down in here, and I had to put a slight 7-degree bend in this bracket to get the indicators parallel. They were sort of pointing forward a little bit like that. Now they're dead on. With my 1 meter steel ruler, they're right on. This means I'm going to have to repaint these brackets again. Clean them up now and give them a paint. Okay, so we have a set of indicator brackets slash top screen brackets painted up, all ready to go. So it's not that difficult to get aftermarket blinkers to run with this bike. The rear ones work because they draw under 70 milliamps. The rear one, the blinker uses 70 milliamps maximum, and the front one uses about 150 milliamps. And the relay that runs the blinkers does not like the front blinkers at all. It'll start to blink once and then it just stops. You have to turn the bike off, turn it back on. It'll do a half of one blink and then stop again, even though the other blinkers are still running. The one that's plugged in for the front with the white DRL just does not want to run. You can draw a conclusion that the relay that comes standing in the bike will not run over, say, to be safe, 70 milliamps. You can see this is quite an involving process. Just getting to the electrical in the tower is like full dismantle. The whole thing has to come apart. Some of the parts that I've made, it's plastic welded them. It's basically the splash guard and the light containment built in there. They wrap around this. There's your brackets. There's your navigation bracket. Blinker slash screen mounts. Got another screen mount there at the bottom. I've had to make them so I could unbolt them from the whole scenario, so I can get it to come apart without taking all the headlights and everything out of it. Okay, so now I'm just playing spaghetti, cleaning up all the wiring, and I finally got hold of these green plugs. Only took 53 days, but we're on now. Hopefully we'll be able to go for a test ride sometime when this rain stops. Been pissing down all day. Well, even though I've spent over a decade as a Sparky and several years doing auto electrical and even just doing auto electrical in general on my cars and other people's cars for over 25 years, I thought I could be the cable management king and just get everything all bundled up into that neat little space. And I was right, I could. But the problem is I have 2 extra plugs, one for power and one for isolation switch with a high beam slash spotlight connection, and I need somewhere for those cables to swing between the triple clamp and the tower, and I got all the cables in there nice and neat, but I couldn't get a nice smooth pinch free clear space for my cables to swing that need to run into the tower from the triple clamps. So I've come up with this extra bracket, and I've raised the odometer bracket up from underneath the triple clamps down in here and brought it forward about 20 mil and raised it about 30 mil. That should give me a lot of height, move it up and forward, so I've got a lot more space in this area, because you can get it into this area even though with the stock thing you've got all, like, there's lots of wasted space here, there's lots of wasted space behind it, there's wasted space in here, then there's the plug that runs down and the loom's too long, and it's just, there's a lot of wasted space. I was going to make an entire new bracket for this, so the only thing that's protruding downwards is the plug, but yeah, I don't think there's any need. I should be able to get away with that as is. We'll soon find out. Attempt number 78. We're starting to get somewhere. We've got everything sorted. We've got the bracket built and mounted. I haven't painted it yet. I'm just doing a test fit. Made enough space between this big bunch of wires and the tower so we can get some clearance for the steering head to turn. So after about, at a guess, 10 weeks of around in my shed, I have a rideable prototype that I can actually take for a spin. This has been a long time in the making. Ended up using the rubber on the blinker brackets just because the aftermarket ones I bought, if you even remotely try and tighten them up to the bracket, the little plastic pin out of the middle just breaks out of the housing. I can get away with using them later on, but I'm just going to have to find longer self-tapping screws that go into them. We're pretty much ready to go for a ride, finally. Indicators are all working now, and everything going. Had to move the odometer, I'm still umming and ahhing whether I'm going to tilt this dash this way a little bit. I don't know, maybe. Sort of try and make it a bit more level with this, but it's not far off it, but it could, I don't know, it might be more functional if it's sitting like this, because I can always adjust my phone on the quad lock. You might see me taking it for a spin, the Savo, before the day's out, maybe. First couple of 100 metres of the first ride of it with the fairing on. I haven't ridden the bike for so long, it feels funny just being on it, so it's going to be hard to tell the bloody difference. No speedo. Okay, that's an issue. Must be plugged in properly. That's going to be fun because there's 600 miles of fucking cable to undo to get at that. Really tell if it makes much difference yet, because A, I don't know how quick I'm going, and B, I'm probably riding under the speed limit because I don't know how quick I'm going. So far it seems alright, there's no buffeting coming off it, there's too many pedestrians around to give it a spurt in the back street near my place anyway. Yeah, there's a nice little pocket of air sitting behind it. About 5 days since I had this thing ready to ride. It's been absolutely pissing down. It even rained this morning. This is the first time the rain stopped in days and days and days. Let's hope it doesn't fall apart on the speed hump. I'm not going to go too well off-road if so. Not even a noise. Excellent. Got air up the speed humps, didn't even make the slightest noise or buzz or rattle or anything. Good times. My attention to detail has paid off so far. The kids give me the throttle on symbol. Yeah, he accelerated out of the corner and just like, hey! He's like full turn around. I think it's just a dead end to a couple of houses. You got a road down here one time when it was pitch black a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago when I first moved here. An equestrian setup. See, people think where I live's a fair shithole. This is like 700 or 800 metres from my house. The bit that you drive through on the highway looks like a fair shithole. You divert by a couple hundred metres and it's fancy as you can see. Road not maintained by council beyond this point. Does it go anywhere? Wrong farm, private property. Is this someone's driveway? Oh, wallabies. Just go down to the river. Alright, we did a turnaround. Doesn't go go anywhere anyway. The river's down there. Oh, there's a bit of a lookout here. How have I not been here for the entire 3 years I've lived like a kilometre away? And the water is brown as. Could do some really good time lapses from here. Star lapses too. It's probably pitch black around here at night. Well, from memory it was. How peaceful until this happens. Go find out what's down there. If it's someone's driveway, it's someone's driveway. I'll turn around. There's no mailbox on it. Slimy as. Washed out. Man, I'm so rusty. I haven't ridden for like 5 weeks. Not disappointing at all. I just got to neaten it all up, and I think I'm going for a redesign of that fairing. Redesign it, give it some rounder edges. I only sort of made it the way that it's shaped because it's made out of flat sheet. I figured I could backfill it with a 5mm stick weld, do a couple of passes on it, and then sand the corners round. And I tried that on a couple of bits of scrap and it works, but it's not very strong. But this shape is much stronger, but yeah, it's not the best looking design. I think I'm going to sand it out of foam and then give it a carbon fibre skin layout. First run on the prototype done. Now do I crack it apart and work on it now? Yeah, probably not. It's going to be dark soon. I'll have a quick look at the wiring. Get back to you.